Hello, this is your friendly evening commentator or blog host. This is Dave Mason, alias Laird David Ellsworth Mason. Now, I'm going to talk about some of my writings, my genealogy research, and my friend of mine, Jim, wanted me to talk about my books. I don't use up all my data doing that. I got a lot of books, but maybe I just pick one in the evening for a while and see how that goes. I'm going to talk about one of the first major printed book that I put out. One of the first ones is Thomas Timmons of Ireland and Northumberland, Virginia, and his descendants from about 15 or 1650 to present. It's kind of vague, but once you get into it, you'll figure out that this book. Let me throw the. Here's it. My name on that monkey did, boy. That was a soft copy, and here's the hard copy here. It comes with a dust cover. Pretty cool, huh? Comes with a dust. It was pretty good. Here's the mug on the back. Still had a beard in that picture, though. And this book is the Timmons family is my grandmother. My dad's mother is the Masons, Geneva Timmons Mason family. I took researched the family back to about 1620. I wasn't real sure what's going on there, but I'm going to do some more research, and I plan to put up a revision on this book, maybe like Revision 1, Revision 2, and number 2 book has got a little more data in it, and if you want to believe that, this book's a 98% data. It's a high school crib notes dream come true, 30 years of research slapped out there for you just to look at the index and take you where you want to go, all through American history. Wrote this book because I was interested in what my grandmother told me when I was about 16. I was interested. She was just had a stroke, and she was in her late 60s, and she was sitting up in a nursing home rehabilitating, and I asked her. I was just getting interested in genealogy at the time. But we always were cemetery hoppers, going here and there, but nothing serious until I was about 16 or so. I asked her, Grandma, what are we? I was not prepared for that. She says English, Irish, and Black Dutch. No kidding. So I just acted like I knew what the hell I was talking about. Yeah, really. Black Dutch, you say? I just let that mull that around in my head for a long time. Of course, computers weren't out yet. You had no PC computers. You couldn't take them and look anything up. And I had a lot of things going on. Hormones raging, Vietnam, all this other junk going on at the same time. I was in the bodybuilding, you name it. Played some sports, all that good stuff. And I had to take genealogy took a back seat. But all that time, I'm thinking, this is Black Dutch, huh? Mm-hmm. Now check this out. What's this Irish, Well, as it turned out, this Timmons line is come from Ireland, all right, County Carlow. But nobody else had this information. I researched it all the way back to Ireland. So, County Carlow, which is about 60 kilometers southwest of Dublin. They were back in them days. It was kind of in an area that was heavily raided by the Vikings, but that was kind of inland. Dublin was Viking stronghold for a long time. They had their own king, Viking king, and everything. But these people here were called the Cauci. They came into the area, the Cauci, sometimes spelled with two I, plural. Was a tribe of Germanic persons from northwest Europe. We think they just crossed over in the Bering Strait Bridge called the Doggerland at one time, and we're living in the area. But about 300 BC is when they came to the area. 300 BC is according to the ancient historians, when this group of people they were used familiar with spears at the time. These Carlo folks were spear chuckers, boy. They were really good at that. Had a long point on them. They were good at what they did. It was unusual because they didn't use spears back in that general area at that time. And these people became the dominant race at the period. And so a lot of ancient history has been created over the Nanan peoples, which were sort of almost like the holy warriors from another plane. How the Irish are with doing a few drinks. I can say that because I'm part Irish. I do what I want. You don't like it too bad. I got a cramp in my hand. It's been a rough day. Anyhow, my book has got an index in the back, and it's got 30 years of research in this Timmons clan. And I had a fellow researcher by the name of Ray Timmons. He lived down there in PD Point area, South Carolina. And we ascertained that the family originally came over in 1669 to a place called in the Caribbean called Novus. Anyhow, this fellow Thomas, he was running slaves, inscripted servants back and forth to earn his passage over and collect some money up, and so on and so forth. And he married one of the Taino women on the islands there, was part Spanish and Central Americans, which she really was. As it turns out, that I got Mayan blood in her because of this relationship. This Taino woman had Mayan blood. It was very interesting. One of her relatives was a Mayan, that's for sure. It's been tested. There's no mistaking. So here's my friend Thomas Timmons, my multi-generational great-grandfather on my grandmother Mason's side there. Married a Taino woman somewhere around 1669, 1670 or so. Somewhere around in there. 74 maybe. Because by 1775 or thereabouts, they're in the Northern Neck in Virginia now. They bought some land or from a guy that held one of them land grants over there in the Northern Neck. Of course, he not being one of them immigrants, they assumed he wasn't that smart. He bought some swamp land, But he was pretty smart, I didn't put this in any of these books I wrote, but he was a pirate. Bootlegger, smuggler, you name it, he was into it. Make a buck. He was over there in Ireland. The family was involved with Quakers, it appears. Quakers were running the churches there around the area, and some of these Timmons was getting in a lot of trouble, and it looks like this Timmons line here were pirates, man. They had to leave the country because they were known. They were smuggling tobacco back to Ireland and stuff like that, Probably back and forth from England over there on the West Coast. They didn't have a major operation. It's just a mom and pop operation, The poor Irish, they got to do whatever they have to make a living, Because the English here taking all their cash crops, so they got to do smuggling and stuff like that. I got to switch hands again. This hand's going down. Alrighty. Moving back to the book again. Thomas Timmons of Ireland at Northumberland, Virginia. Ireland, that's just outside of Dublin, about 60 kilometers. There's a place called Carlow. There's another place which is about 30 clicks to the west, closer to um, the shore, the Irish Sea, is where all the rich British go. It's called Wicklow. Wicklow, Carlow. You can't get the two mixed up because it's completely different scenery. Believe me, you get the rich English over there in Wicklow, and then you got the shanty Irish over there in Carlow. A lot of old castles and stuff that have been tore down, and the British came in there, running the country down to the ground as they always do. Of course, I sound like a Republican Army individual, but that's not me. I just know the truth. But anyhow, my people fought out against them and wound up having to go back to the United States to survive. That's where they put all the criminals. My guy was running people back and forth for the owner that shipped him over and earned his living and bought himself some land, and it was around 1675, 76. I got a copy of the documents that proved that he was there and he owned it. It's kind of at least a little bit of chip, a little bit of that area. You just don't get it. The land was dealt out to the other people that were there first, then you was just lucky to purchase a chip of it here and there, A little piece of lease here, a little piece there. Eventually, the same family moved farther west, with George Washington. Washington, when he was young, they moved west too. Back past the Winston, Virginia area, Winchester, I'm sorry. Back on the Blue Ridge, the Smoky Mountains, and all that good stuff, My ancestor, which would have been Thomas Timmons' grandson, carried the chain for the surveying crew that George Washington was involved with. Well, he was just a youngster, about 16 years of age. And Thomas Timmons, he was around 8, 10 years old. He carried the chain for him. All to the new territories there in Virginia and Pennsylvania. State of Washington, a lot of people don't realize that George Washington, he was the wealthiest man in the whole continent. He owned Virginia, he owned Pennsylvania, he owned Ohio. And what they did, they surveyed all this property up, and of course he gave King the domain over it, but he actually had the lease on all this land, and he was dividing it up amongst the settlers and this and that and the government and all that stuff. That man was so filthy rich, he was a king in his own right, George Washington, But he was a next door neighbor to my Samuel Timmons, which was my Thomas Timmons' son, born in 1694. He was the baby. I gotta switch hands again. Here we go. Well, anyhow, this book is a favorite of college kids. They'd love to steal it rather than pay for it. But you can get it on Scribble. You can get a version to go on your Kindle or your tablet. I got a tablet here, and I got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of versions of books that I use and look at. And I have some friends that send me some versions, and of course, then I got some of my stuff on Google. You can go in there and Google it, and it'll give you some excerpts, and you can look up some names and from my books. My books are very good. They're not just put together with some damn drunken old whore, I know what the hell I've been doing. I'm doing it for a long time. I'm very good at research and detective work. From one generation to the next, I'm extremely good with the ancient stuff. I have a better luck with finding the very old and then creeping forward with the families later on. But I can get the ancient ones in for. Well, one of the tricks is knowing the naming patterns for the Germans and the Irish and all that. Once you knew what the naming patterns were, man, you'd You can look up the church records, and the Germans kept great records. But I'm getting a little offbeat. But Irish is the same way too, especially when they're Catholic. They kept records of everybody's birth, everybody's death, everybody's infraction, especially with the Quakers. Quakers wrote everything down. If you was a tobacco runner like my Timmons, they wrote that junk down. I have a friend that swore they were all Huguenots. But the only problem is, they're not Huguenots. They're Germanic. They're not French. You see. The Huguenots were French. Protestants. But our Timmons is definitely Germanic, and it's an older tribe. Like I say, the Cauchy, Cauc, double I. And it's spelled a little differently on the continent, but it's basically the same. It looks like the same. It looks like he was drunk when he wrote it. So it's the same thing. And over in the Germanic area, I've taken a lot of DNA testing, and I've checked other people, Timmons, and some alive, some dead now, and out of pocket. Some paid for themselves, some I paid for. It's just I wanted to prove that these different Timmons lines, such as a line that came into Maryland, for instance, was related. And come to find out, this joker is extremely related, and to the point I'd stick my neck out and say that this William Timmons that came in over there about 1680, 81 with his wife was either a brother or a first cousin. That's the way the DNA reads. No mistaking. It's been tested over and over, tried and true, and we all match. You betcha. It all matches. My cousins match up with them and this and that, and clear on down, all the way down to South Carolina. Come on back around through Tennessee and Kentucky, come back up through Ohio, Indiana, and out and further places west. As I could go on and on and on. I had to cut off my work in about the 1930s or so. In some places before then, and some places a little later. It depends if I had a donor donating some of their information and they wanted it included. But I have an index in there, a name index. You can go right to look up the name, and I'll tell you what pages that you'll find that name. And then you go to that and you look at that name and see how they're associated with other people and this and that, and who's related to who. And then you can go back and check more pages and branch out, and it is very, very well put together. It's not a storybook though. I'm not Stephen King. I don't write horror stories. Putting this together was a horror story, now mind you. But like I said, I'm good at it. I spent many, 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 many nights busting my butt and putting this thing together with my friend and cohort, Ray Timmons. Very smart man. Very good with a camera, boy. He could really snap some shots for documents. I don't know how he did it, but he must have his nose up somebody's booty down there to get in there, get all them documents like he did. Like nobody knows. But I had the raw instincts to send them. So this is where we're going to go. These people are related. Now we got to prove this. And by God, we did too. But it was difficult for Ray because he had stuck his neck out and said everybody were Huguenots. Then the DNA came in. His DNA, for one thing, is Germanic. It's not French. I have more French in me than he does because of the Stuart line, Well, Brittany. I have the Royal Stuart line running through me, so I have more French running in me than he does. And that threw him off there, too. It's kind of crazy how stuff happens. But this Timmons book was a labor of love. Donated to my grandmother. She's no longer with us. She died back in 82. And I'm planning to do another sequel to this, only it's going to have more stories in it. Like this tells of how my many times great-grandfather Timmons fought with George Washington back in Pennsylvania. My direct line. His name was Abner Timmons, a young man, born in 1756. No, What am I talking about? So, my mind is left me. I'm sorry. That's Samuel. But Abner, anyway, he fought with George Washington. He went to New York when they had battles in there and fought with George Washington. When George Washington was just a young man, he was like 21, 22, something like that, you know. All of them Timmons went into the wars. And they moved from Virginia. When the war bogged down in Virginia, they all moved down to South Carolina to join up with Francis Marion in the Swamp House. They took up lands there in the PD area. This has been going on for 20 minutes. I got to cut it. I can talk all night about genealogy. I'm sorry, but I may have to cut this up or something. Nobody's want to listen to no 20 minutes. I can go on and on and on and on. I can tell you about some of these other books I did researching the Hessians. That's another one. There's a lot of stories. I wrote a book on that, but I didn't do a fair job. I put the index together, but I didn't have all the stories together. Some people were displeased. I mean, the data's there. I mean, but they don't really know how to put it together. Some people don't, but they didn't do the research with going to Germany and all this other stuff. You know, very expensive affair. You got to hire German researchers because they won't let you just go into the depositories and touch their records. You got to have a representative go in there with kid gloves that they know. Otherwise, you're not gonna get nothing done. And them suckers cost money, man. They're running between $50 and $60 an hour, American euros. I don't know how it works out, but they tell you how much time it's going to take you, and they say, well, it'll be 500 euros to do this half. And then this other half, which you really don't care too much about trade work and stuff like that, but they'll give you union work, and because the Germans were good with trade unions and all that stuff. Then they charge you another 500 euros for other bull crap, you know. And there probably isn't anything there anyway. Any more than you want to know. So I just took the disc. I took the $500 it cost me. You know, they think Americans are sitting around rich as all can be with sacks of gold in their living room, just looking for an individual that was deserving enough to get their gold. That's what these Continentals think about us. But they're nice fellas as long as you keep the gold flowing. Well, they do anything. They can speak English just as quick as anybody. Oh, yeah, that's sharp. But they try to pretend like they have a little trouble understanding, you know, until you start greasing their palm, you know. But, you know, you can correspond with them in English, so send you back some Tracker-Jack reports. And the guy's name that I used in my book it's in the book under my Hessian research. So I'm getting ahead of myself with the next book, but I just thought I'd give you a little heads up on it. My Thomas Timmons, it's about pirates, it's about gangsters in the 1920s, 30s, pedophile, murders, you name it. I didn't put all them pedophiles in there. Nobody needs to know all about that junk, but you talk to me about it, I'll tell you. I'll tell you some family stories and all the skeletons jumped out and scared the living crap out of you. I can tell you some stories you wouldn't believe. Yeah. I remember this Black Sheep organization, you know, that's what happens. They have an ancestor somewhere done something and labeled the family Black Sheep, you know, because of what he had done. But, you know, I didn't do it. It took me a while to get used to the fact that I had a pedophile in the family. Of one of the things he did, you know, besides being a pimp, punk, and asshole, and a organized crime figure, and a murderer, he was a pedophile on top of that. Then this guy died in the penitentiary. I'm going to tell you, man, this guy was my great-grandfather, David Timmons. Died in the penitentiary in 1943. And that's about the time when the Italians were moving into northwest Ohio here. Licavoli was taking over all the old Jewish businesses and stuff, you know. Purple Gang got tossed out. Finally, there was one mean group. Because my grandfather and of course, the Timmons group and all that were all working for the Purple Gang at one point. And then when the Italians came to town, all of a sudden, all my family got murdered. Dropped dead in the street. Suddenly. Bullet wound. Or thrown underneath a train. Or suddenly had some kind of stroke in prison or some kind of nonsense. All happened in 1943. I lost my grandfather, my great-grandfather, my uncle, Yeah, all suddenly, all up and died. But, that's another story there. Call me up, man. I got a million stories to tell you. I just didn't write them down yet. I got to stay alive long enough to do all this crap. So I'm going to do it, too. I think I'll get one of them recording devices, It might make it easier for me than one of them dragging programs. A computer just dedicated for writing, because that's the only way I'm going to get anything typed, because my arthritis won't allow it. Well, I'll let you go. I've been on this thing for 25 and a half minutes, man. The data usage is going to kill me. I'll see you later. Take it easy.